Willa Dawson nearly dropped the coffee pot when the stranger with the sharp jawline and colder stare walked into the bistro and sat at table 7, the one by the window, with a view of nothing but the alley and a dented dumpster. Why would someone in a suit that expensive choose that seat? She muttered under her breath, grabbing her notepad as she smoothed her apron. It was a quiet Tuesday morning at Olive and Thyme, the cozy bistro her best friend Macy owned. Willa had been helping out for months, waiting tables while figuring out her next move in life. She hadn't expected to be back in her old hometown, let alone working double shifts for tips, but life had a sense of humor. She approached the man's table. His eyes lifted from the tablet in his hand, dark, intense, unreadable. "Good morning," she said, pen ready. "What can I get started for you?" He looked at her, really looked at her, and for a moment she felt pinned in place, like he was trying to figure something out. "You don't have a menu, you're sitting on it," she said with a half laugh, pointing to the chalkboard on the wall. "We keep it simple here." His lips curved slightly. "Black coffee and the special. You don't know what the special is." "I trust you," Willa raised a brow. "You shouldn't. I'll take my chances." She walked away, shaking her head. The guy was handsome, sure, in a too polished, too clean way. Like he belonged in a glass office downtown, not in a place that served $5 avocado toast. When she returned with the food, he was still watching her. Not in a creepy way, more like, studying. "You're not from around here," he said. Willa gave a short laugh. "I was born 2 blocks from here." His expression shifted. "That's so?" "Yep, lifelong local failure." "Now, are you gonna eat or interrogate me?" "I'm just making conversation." "Well, I'm just making minimum wage," she said, walking away before he could respond. He came back the next day, and the day after. Always at table 7, always ordering whatever the special was. "Do you have a name?" she asked finally on day 4, dropping his plate in front of him. "Xander Gray," she blinked. "Like, the Xander Gray, CEO of Gray Tech." He didn't answer at first. Then, "I didn't think you'd recognize the name." "I didn't. Macy did. She follows tech people like they're rock stars." "You don't." "I follow rent prices and grocery bills." That made him laugh. A real one this time. Willa didn't get it. Why would a billionaire? Because yeah, she Googled him after her shift, and the man was worth more than a small country keep coming to a tiny bistro like this. They didn't even serve oat milk, but he came. Every day. And every day he talked a little more, asked questions, smiled more. His guard slipped just a little. She learned he liked his coffee hot and bitter, that he hated meetings, that he hadn't taken a real break in years, and she told him things too. About how she left a job in marketing that drained her soul, how she was scared she'd never find her thing. How she felt stuck. One Thursday afternoon, it was pouring outside. She was wiping tables when he showed up again, rain clinging to his jacket. "You're early," she said, glancing at the clock. "I was in the neighborhood." "You're never in the neighborhood unless you're lost." He leaned against the counter, watching her. "You always this blunt." "Only with billionaires who keep stealing my favorite table." He hesitated, then placed something on the counter, a small paper bag. "What's this?" "Brownies. From that bakery on 5th you said you missed." Her mouth parted. "You remembered that?" "I remember everything you say." And just like that, something shifted. That night, Macy cornered her in the back. "You like him." "I do not." "You do. And I know he likes you. He's a CEO, so what? So I serve coffee, I bring him napkins." "You're more than this job, Willa, and he clearly sees that." But Willa wasn't so sure. There was a world between them. He wore watches that cost more than her car. She had holes in her sneakers. The next day, he didn't come in, or the day after that. By the 3rd day, she was checking the door more than she cared to admit. Macy noticed. "You okay?" "Yeah, why?" "You're staring at the door like it owes you money." Willa laughed it off, but the truth was she missed him. His sarcasm. His quiet way of watching her. The way he made her feel seen. She was closing up that night when she heard the bell above the door. She turned, and there he was, hair damp from rain, no suit, just jeans and a black tee. "Where have you been?" she asked, heart pounding. "Meetings." "New York. You couldn't say goodbye." "I didn't want to." "Why?" because I knew if I did, I'd talk myself out of coming back. She stared at him. Why would you want to talk yourself out of it? He stepped closer. Because I don't do distractions, I don't do feelings, but with you. Her breath caught. I think about you when I'm not here, he said quietly. I wake up wondering what sarcastic thing you'll say next. I go to meetings thinking about your stupid jokes. You've gotten under my skin, Willa, she swallowed. I'm not like the women you probably know, I know. That's why I like you, her heart thudded. I'm not offering anything complicated, he said. Just dinner with me, outside of this place. She hesitated. Say yes, he said, softer now, please, and for once she didn't overthink it. Okay, his smile was slow, real. Good, she smiled back, pulse racing, but I'm picking the place. Fine, just one condition. What? No diners, I'm not wearing flannel, she laughed again. We'll see. Willa stood in front of the mirror in Macy's cramped apartment, tugging at the hem of her navy blouse for the 5th time. Do I look like I'm trying too hard? Macy glanced up from the couch, where she was painting her toenails a shade called crushed mulberry. She arched a brow. You look like someone who's going to dinner with a man who's probably eaten foie gras with royalty. That helps, Macy blew on her toes. He asked you out. You didn't chase him down, Willa. You're not trying too hard. You're trying, period. That's allowed. The ride to the restaurant was quiet, not in an awkward way, but in that charged silence that made her skin tingle. Xander didn't say much as he drove, one hand on the steering wheel of a sleek black car that purred more than it roared. She didn't ask what kind it was. She didn't want to know how many months of rent it cost. They pulled up to a discreet building tucked between a flower shop and an antique bookstore. No sign, no menu in the window. This place doesn't exactly scream approachable, Willa muttered as he opened the passenger door for her. They serve the best handmade pasta in a 100-mile radius. No one cares about the sign. Inside, the restaurant was all candlelight and soft jazz, the kind of place where even the waitstaff seemed to walk slower to preserve the atmosphere. Xander greeted the hostess by name, and they were led to a private corner table with 2 glasses of something already poured. You pre-ordered wine, she asked, eyebrows lifting. No, he said, settling across from her, but I might have called ahead. Willa glanced around. This place probably has a dress code. They do. I told them to make an exception. She let out a breath. You're impossible. I've been told worse. The waitress arrived with something that smelled like heaven and looked like art. Willa stared at the plate for a moment, then picked up her fork. So, tell me something you've never told anyone, Xander said as she took her first bite. She blinked. That's a little intense for a first dinner. You made me wait 3 weeks for this. I'm skipping small talk. She paused, chewing slowly. All right. When I was 12, I tried to start a dog walking business. I made flyers and everything, but I stapled them to the inside of the mailbox at the end of our street, thinking people would just find them. He laughed, surprised, and she felt a strange sort of pride bloom in her chest. Did anyone ever call? No, but I did get a lecture from the mailman about tampering with federal property. Worth it. Your turn, he leaned back. I hate flying, her brow furrowed. You own a tech company with offices in 3 countries. I never said I didn't do it, I said I hate it. Why? He hesitated. My father was a pilot, small planes. He died in a crash when I was 17. Her fork paused mid-air. Xander. I didn't know. I don't talk about it. Why now? Because you asked, and I don't lie to you. She set her fork down. You don't owe me anything? I know, but I want to. They didn't talk for a while after that, not because it was uncomfortable, but because the silence felt earned. Like something had shifted again, this time deeper. The meal passed in slow, easy waves. He told her about the early days of Gray tech, sleeping in the office, eating vending machine dinners, waiting for an investor to return a call. She told him about empty interviews, rejection emails, and the time she almost accepted a job selling overpriced candles door to door. As they walked out into the crisp evening, he glanced at her. Come with me, she paused. Where? He didn't answer, just opened the car door. She hesitated only a second before sliding in. They didn't drive far. A narrow street led them behind a steel gate and into a private rooftop parking deck. At the top, he killed the engine and led her to an elevator tucked in the corner. "This is a terrible time to tell you I'm mildly claustrophobic," she said as the doors closed. Duly noted. When they stepped out, the view hit her like a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. The city stretched out in all directions, glittering and alive. A small table sat near the edge, a bottle of champagne chilling beside it, 2 glasses waiting. "Okay," she said, turning to him. "You've officially peaked." He walked to the edge, looking out. "This is the roof of my building," she joined him. "You live here." "Top floor," she turned slowly. "You brought me to your home. I wanted you to see something." He stepped closer, then pointed to a distant street lamp far below. "That's Olive and Thyme. From up here it's just a speck of light, but every time I look down I know you're there." Her breath caught. "I don't know where this is going," he said after a moment. "I'm not good at this. I've spent most of my life focused on building something that couldn't leave me. And now I see you, and I'm starting to think some things are worth the risk." She looked at him, really looked. "Not the money, not the status, just the man. I'm scared too, Xander. I don't need you to promise me anything. What do you need? A chance?" She didn't answer right away. The wind tugged at her hair and the city pulsed below them like a heartbeat. "You have one." He didn't move, but something in his gaze softened. "Good." As they stood there, 2 silhouettes against the night sky, Willa felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. Not because he was rich or powerful or because he could give her rooftop views and candlelit pasta, but because he saw her, all of her, and he chose to stay. Willa didn't expect to see her art hanging on the walls. She stepped into Xander's penthouse for the first time a week after their rooftop night, expecting sleek lines, cold tones, and the kind of sterile luxury that belonged in magazines. And yes, the place was massive floor-to-ceiling windows, polished marble floors, a fireplace that looked like it had never known ash. But what she didn't expect was the canvas above the fireplace, her canvas. "Wait," she said, moving closer. "Is that—" "You left it in the back room at the Bistro," Xander said from behind her, setting down her coat. "Macy let me take it. You bought it?" "I didn't think you'd notice if it disappeared." She turned around. "I didn't even think you liked it." "I didn't know what it meant the first time I saw it," he said, walking toward her. "But I couldn't stop looking at it. It felt like something was unraveling and being stitched back together at the same time. I figured anyone who could paint something like that wasn't meant to hide behind coffee cups." Willa swallowed hard. "It was just a hobby. Still is." She hesitated. "I started painting again after work. Sometimes. Then I want to see everything you've done since." She laughed under her breath. "You don't have to say that. I'm not saying it out of obligation. I'm saying it because I can't stop thinking about what else you've been hiding." He took her hand, and for a moment neither of them spoke. The silence wasn't awkward. It was charged with something heavier, something neither of them could name yet. Xander led her into the living room. A fire had been lit, real flames, crackling softly, and a tray rested on the low table, filled with dishes she didn't recognize, but that smelled incredible. "You cooked?" "No," he said, reaching for a bottle of wine. "But I asked my chef to send something over that didn't involve foam or edible flowers." She sat on the edge of the sofa. "So this is your idea of casual?" "I don't do casual." "You don't say." He poured her a glass and handed it to her, then sat across from her, his expression unreadable again. She'd learned by now that when he looked like that, something important was coming. "I have to be in Tokyo next week," he said. She blinked. "Okay, for meetings. We're finalizing a major acquisition." "It's been in the works for months." "Is this your way of telling me you're bailing on dinner for the next 7 days?" He didn't smile. "Actually, I want you to come with me." Her heartbeat stumbled. "To Tokyo. 3 days. I'll be working during the day, but the nights are mine. And I want to spend them with you." She stared at him. "You're inviting me to another continent." "I am. I don't even have a passport." "You filled out an application 2 years ago but never submitted it. There's an expedited office in the city." If we go tomorrow, they can have it ready by Friday, her mouth parted. How do you even know that? I asked Macy. Willa leaned back. Of course you did. I'm not saying it has to mean anything more than what it is, he said. But I don't want to pretend I'm not thinking about you when I'm halfway around the world. She studied him. The control, the precision, he always had a plan. But this, inviting her into his life in such a bold, unfiltered way, felt like something else. Something real. I've never even been on a plane, she said finally. Then I'm going to ruin you for Coach, she laughed, and the sound surprised her. It felt too big for the room. I'll go, she said. If I can get the passport. You will, he said, and it wasn't arrogance. It was certainty. She stayed the night. Nothing happened, not in the way people would assume. They talked. They fell asleep on the couch, her head on his chest, his arm around her like it belonged there. And in the morning, everything felt different, more solid. Less like a fluke and more like something taking shape. The passport came through. She packed a borrowed suitcase. Macy cried when she dropped her off at the airport. Don't fall in love with Tokyo, she said. Or a billionaire who owns it. Willa rolled her eyes, but her stomach fluttered the whole flight. The hotel suite was bigger than her entire apartment. She didn't know places like that existed outside of movies. There was a soaking tub the size of a hot tub and curtains that opened with a remote control. But none of that mattered when Xander walked in after his meetings, tie loose, sleeves rolled, and kissed her like he'd been waiting all day just to touch her. He took her to hidden restaurants down alleyways, to art galleries that opened after hours just for him, to gardens lit by lanterns that made everything feel like a dream. And through it all, he watched her not like he was waiting for her to mess up, but like he couldn't believe she was really there. One night, halfway through a bowl of ramen, she said, "You know this can't last forever." He set his chopsticks down. Why not? Because we live in two different worlds. I don't want you in my world, I want to build a new one with you. She stared at him across the table. You say that like it's easy, it's not, but nothing worth having ever is. Willa didn't have an answer, not then. But when he reached across the table and laced their fingers together, she didn't pull away. When they flew home, something had changed. She felt it in the way he looked at her on the plane, in the way he carried her bag, in the way he touched the small of her back without thinking. But with the change came the storm. It started with a headline. Graytech CEO seen in Tokyo with unidentified woman. She saw it on Macy's phone before he could warn her. Photos. Grainy but clear enough, him, her, a caption that practically screamed scandal. Willa froze. How did they even know we were there? There's always someone watching. You said this wouldn't be complicated? I said I didn't want it to be. She stepped back, pulse pounding. This is your life, constant exposure. People dissecting everything. I tried to shield you, you failed. Silence, then he said, do you want out? She looked up, eyes burning. Is that your solution to everything? Just offer an exit. No, he said, voice low. But I won't keep you in something that hurts you. It's not the cameras that scare me, she said. It's the fact that one article, one photo, and suddenly I'm not Willa anymore. I'm unidentified woman, like I don't even exist outside of you. His jaw tightened. You exist. Then prove it, she whispered. Not with money, not with dinners or jet rides or art on your walls. Prove it like a person, like someone who actually sees me. He didn't say anything, and for the first time since they met, she walked out. Willa didn't cry until the subway doors closed behind her. She stood in the middle of the car, hands curled tightly around the metal pole, staring blankly at the advertisement for a teeth-whitening kit above the window. The train rocked, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, and she felt completely gutted. He hadn't followed her. She hadn't expected him to. That's what hurt the most. When she reached her apartment, she kicked off her shoes and threw herself onto the couch. Her phone buzzed 4 times. She didn't check it. She didn't need to see his name to know who it was. For the next 3 days, she avoided Olive and Time. Macy called, left voicemails, even showed up outside Willa's door once, but Willa didn't answer. She couldn't face the pity, the well-meaning advice. The inevitable question. What happens now? She didn't know. On the fourth morning, she opened her apartment door to grab the grocery delivery she hadn't ordered and found a heavy white envelope propped against the bag of oranges. Her name was written across the front in firm, precise handwriting. Inside was a single ticket. One way, Charleston, no note, no explanation, just a date and a flight time for that night. She sat on the floor staring at it for a long time, wondering why Charleston, wondering why now. Wondering if she was really about to get on a plane again for a man who hadn't said a single word since she'd walked out of his penthouse. By the time she reached the airport, the sun was setting behind the clouds. She handed over the ticket with shaking fingers. The gate agent scanned it without blinking. The flight was quiet. She didn't sleep. When she landed, a driver was waiting with her name on a small black sign and a bouquet of wildflowers in his other hand. She hesitated before taking them. They smelled like honeysuckle and something else she couldn't place. The car took her past trees dripping with moss and quiet streets lined with shuttered windows. When they stopped, she stepped out and turned slowly, trying to understand what she was looking at. It was a house. Or maybe more of a villa. Pale stone walls, shuttered windows thrown open to the breeze, and standing at the edge of the porch was Xander. She didn't move, neither did he. "I bought this place last year," he said, voice carried by the wind. "Didn't tell anyone, not even my board. I come here when I need to breathe." Willa took a step closer. "Why did you send for me?" "Because I couldn't say it in a message, and I couldn't chase you not when I knew you needed space, but I hoped you'd come, so I waited." She stood at the bottom of the steps, arms folded. "You didn't ask if I was okay." "I knew you weren't," he said. "I wasn't either." The porch light buzzed faintly above them. Somewhere in the distance, cicadas hummed. "I didn't handle it right," he continued. "The press, the exposure, I've dealt with it so long I forget how brutal it can be. I should have prepared you, I should have protected you." "You can't protect me from everything," she said. "That's not what I wanted." He came down the steps slowly and stopped a few feet away. "Then what did you want?" "I wanted to matter," she said, chest aching. "Not to your company. Not to your image, just to you. You do. You didn't act like it." "I was scared," he admitted. "That I'd pull you too far into my world and you'd lose yourself. I didn't want you to disappear inside this thing that follows me everywhere." She looked up at him. "You still don't get it? Then help me." She took a breath. "I've been invisible before, in relationships, at jobs, in rooms full of people who didn't think I belonged, but with you, I didn't feel invisible. Not until I saw that headline, and suddenly I wasn't me anymore. I was someone attached to you." He stepped forward. "Then let's change the narrative. Let's tell them who you are on your terms, not mine." She frowned. "How?" "I already started," he said. "I turned down a cover story they wanted to run next week about us. I told them it wasn't their story to tell." Her heart twisted. "You did that. I'll keep doing it. As many times as it takes." Willa stared at him, the man who had once walked into a dingy little bistro and ordered coffee like he had no idea what it meant to let someone in. And now, here he was, trying, not with money, not with grand promises, just with honesty. "I'm not going to fit into your life like a missing puzzle piece, Xander," she said. "I'm not going to be the woman who nods through meetings or smiles quietly in the background." "I don't want that," he said. "I want the woman who told me not to trust her specials, the one who called me out when no one else would. The one who made me laugh when I forgot how." She felt her throat tighten, her chest rise with each heavy breath. "I love you," he said. "I didn't say it before because I didn't know how, but I do, and not in the way people love things that are shiny or exciting. I love you because you challenge me, because you make me want to be someone better, because you saw every part of me and didn't flinch." Her vision blurred. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "No," she whispered. I'm not proposing," he said, opening the box. Inside was a paintbrush. She looked at it in confusion. "I found it in the back of the bistro. You left it behind." She took the brush gently. The bristles were worn, the handle streaked with dried color. "I want you to keep painting," he said. "Not because of me, not because of us, but because the world should see what you create. You don't have to hide behind coffee and sarcasm anymore." She stared at the brush, then at him. "I don't know what comes next," she said. "I do," he replied. "We build something, together, no headlines, no scripts, just us." She stepped forward and kissed him. It wasn't like before, it wasn't desperate or fevered, it was slow, certain, the kind of kiss that feels like an answer. Later they sat on the porch, knees touching, her hand resting over his heart. "I don't need Tokyo or private rooftops," she said. "I know. I just need you to keep showing up." "I will." The stars blinked above them. Somewhere inside, music played softly from a forgotten speaker. She leaned her head against his shoulder. "Willa Gray," he said thoughtfully. She raised a brow. "Excuse me?" "I was just trying it out," she laughed. "Don't get ahead of yourself, I'm not." "I'm just hoping." Hope's a good place to start. And with that, the woman who once waited tables at a bistro she never thought she'd leave, closed her eyes and let herself imagine a life that felt impossibly, beautifully real. The first morning back in New York felt different. Not because of the sunrise, it was still hidden behind gray clouds, but because Willa woke up in Xander's arms, in the same bed where she once questioned if she belonged. There was no hesitation in her now. No more blinking at the ceiling wondering if this was all temporary. He was still asleep, one hand resting against her hip, breath steady, hair tousled in a way that made him look less like a billionaire and more like a man who'd finally learned how to rest. She slipped out of bed quietly and padded into the kitchen, barefoot, wrapped in one of his button-down shirts. The space was too pristine for her taste, but she'd already started sneaking in her own chaos: a chipped mug from Olive and Thyme, a magnet from Tokyo, and a sketch she pinned on the fridge with tape because she didn't own magnets yet. She was pouring coffee when he appeared, shirtless, with a quiet yawn. "You're real," he said. "That's debatable," she replied, sliding a mug toward him. He took it, then leaned against the counter. "I had a dream you left again." "I didn't, I know. But I'm still getting used to the idea that you're here." She looked at him over the rim of her own mug. "You'll have to get used to a few things. I steal blankets in my sleep. I leave wet brushes in the sink. I talk to myself while painting." He stepped closer. "I already know those things. I hum when I'm nervous. You haven't hummed once since Charleston. I've been too happy to be nervous." He reached out and tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear. "Then let's keep it that way." Later that afternoon, they stopped by Olive and Thyme. Macy nearly tackled Willa the second she walked through the door. "I heard what happened. You disappeared. You went to Charleston. He sent a plane. You kissed on a porch. And now you're back in the city like nothing happened?" "Something happened," Willa said, laughing. "Everything happened." Xander stood to the side, letting them talk. When Willa finally introduced him to the kitchen staff, he shook every hand, asked every name, and didn't flinch when someone dropped a tray of glasses behind the counter. Afterward, they sat at table 7. The table where everything had started. Willa traced the edge of the wood, now worn smoother than she remembered. "Do you miss it yet?" he asked, serving coffee. "No, being anonymous." She looked around. "I wasn't anonymous here, I was invisible." "That's different. And now I get to be seen, and not just by you. I see myself, I know what I want." He turned slightly. "What do you want?" "A small studio, not in some skyscraper, somewhere with chipped paint and loud neighbors and good light in the mornings. And a gallery show. Eventually, something real, not curated for people who only care about price tags. You'll have it." "I don't want it handed to me, I know, that's why I won't be the one handing it to you." She smiled. "I love you for that." He leaned forward. "You love me, don't act surprised. I'm not. I just never get tired of hearing it." She reached across the table, lacing their fingers. "I love you." That night, they hosted dinner at Xander's penthouse for once, full of warmth instead of silence. Macy brought her boyfriend, who immediately broke a wineglass and apologized profusely. Willa laughed so hard she nearly cried. Xander cooked one dish himself, burned the edges, but no one cared. After everyone left, Willa stood at the window, barefoot again, arms folded, watching the city breathe below. Xander came up behind her, sliding his arms around her waist. "You haven't asked me what I want." I figured I'd find out when you bought the moon and named it after me. He didn't laugh. Instead, he pressed his lips to her shoulder. I want a life with you, not just weekends and stolen nights. I want morning coffee that tastes like your lipstick. Paint smudges on my dress shirts. I want to come home to you even when we're both exhausted and haven't spoken all day. I want real. She turned in his arms. Then let's build it, marry me. The words hit her like a soft shock. Not planned, not packaged in a velvet box, just him. Bare, honest, and asking from a place that was nothing but truth, she reached up, cupping his jaw. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. Then yes. He kissed her, and this time there wasn't a storm behind it, just a promise. 6 months later, the gallery was packed. People lined up along the walls, sipping wine, murmuring in front of canvas after canvas, all signed with a small, simple WD in the corner. Willa stood in the middle of the chaos, dress soft and flowing, hair swept back, eyes wide with disbelief as strangers pointed at her work and spoke about meaning and movement and color. She'd done it. On her terms. Xander arrived fashionably late, of course. He wore a tailored navy suit, but his tie was gone, and his hair was messier than usual. You're going to make the papers, she teased, letting him wrap his arms around her waist. I'd rather make your bed. Too bad. You're stuck making a life with me instead. Perfect, he said, then kissed her right in the center of the gallery. Flashbulbs went off. No one gasped, no one whispered. Because by now they weren't a scandal, they were a story, one that people rooted for. By the time the gallery cleared and the lights dimmed, he pulled her aside and handed her a small envelope. Inside, a deed, her studio, the one with the chipped paint, the loud neighbors, and the morning light. I didn't buy it for you, he said. I bought it with you. It's in both our names. She laughed, then cried, then kissed him again so hard her heels lifted off the floor. The next morning, they stood in the doorway of the studio, paint cans and drop cloths at their feet, and he looked at her like she was the only thing that ever made sense. You ready? He asked. She nodded. Let's make something new, and they did together, always.